Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of Thanks Brain Interviews. Hey, these interviews are a chance for us to go ahead and take a break from all the social media feeds and all the news, breaking news stuff, and actually show our brains a little bit of appreciation. And before we start, gotta let you know, these episodes and all things Thanks Brain are brought to you by Parari Group, a creative design and strategy company. If you want to learn more, go to pararigroup.com. Today I have with me Zack Miller, founder of Hatch in Norfolk, Virginia. And he's also a host of HR Business Weekly, a weekly episodic interview series where Zach goes around the area and interviews local entrepreneurs and gets new insights. So we're very happy to have you here with us, Zach.
Thanks for having me.
So I brought you on because I wanted to go ahead and talk to you about pretty much Hatch. I mean, I feel like you have such a unique perspective, interviewing other people, working with entrepreneurs, day in and day out.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea for Hatch?
So the interesting thing about the TV show too is I'm educating myself sometimes on these things too. So when I interview people, I'm learning myself. I'm asking questions that I would want. So I think that's an interesting piece of that. Several years ago, I was growing a company and was looking for a very specific resource on how to do that. It's around 2010, 2011. Facebook is getting big, and I asked some friends, "Hey, where should I go to, learn how to grow a company?" And the answers that people gave me were places that, when I went to them, I didn't feel like their context was right. So whether it was the equivalent of a professor teaching a class on how to start a business when they hadn't started a business, or someone not using kind of 21st century digital tools to, the most important thing in business is dress to success. And I said, this seems weird. Like, there needs to be kind of a new age business resource. And I was enjoying where I was living and didn't want to move to another area that might have been more progressive that maybe had that tool. And so I decided to start creating my own. And so Hatch kind of started to grow another company, but was able to kind of start having meetup groups with other entrepreneurs, was very specific on that. And when we invited people, they had to fit a specific kind of mold. And if they didn't, we wouldn't let them come back the next month. We said you can invite whoever you want to, but we weren't looking for the real estate agent of the world, and that's where a lot of these people were going, is they were going to these meetups and finding people, and we wanted to make it kind of a curated and an exclusive group of people, because entrepreneurship is very interesting. On my drive in here today, we were talking about where people just don't get it. They don't understand the highs, they don't understand the lows, they don't understand the journey, and to have kind of an exclusive group of these people was something that I needed myself, but also quickly learned that other people were looking for it too. So I came up with the idea because I needed it, and then realized that potentially there could be a business model out of it, and started doing events, meetups, and eventually kind of on-demand business resources because I needed it. And it's not always the best thing to do to kind of create your own business model for yourself and then hopefully create something out of it. But we were able to figure that out pretty quickly, that other people wanted what we were creating.
So you did this whole exclusive model, which is very interesting to me, because a lot of people talk about entrepreneurship to be a very collaborative kind of affair, especially at the very beginning of an early stage startup. So how has the exclusivity kind of worked out?
So it's not as exclusive now, I would say, but I guess to combat that, I would say, if there is someone telling you how to just hire someone, they're going to say, just hire this person, go through these checklists. There is an emotional side of that you don't understand. Mm-hmm. It's hard to just hire someone, or it's hard to let someone go if you've never been in those shoes. Understanding that you don't just get to come home and watch Netflix for 9 hours. You actually have to figure out what that is, maybe not take a vacation for several years. So I think what the exclusive piece out of it is saying that people who are going through this, you are being collaborative in that respect. Mm-hmm. You don't have other people who aren't going through that be a part of it because they just don't get it. Mm-hmm. They expect that every 2-week paycheck, 2, 3, 4 weeks of vacation, to take hour to 3 hour long lunch break and all those things. And they just don't get it the same way as someone who actually is risking their life and putting it on the line to figure out.
Okay, so entrepreneurs know a little bit more about what it takes to be in entrepreneurship, so you're bringing this group together. So with these entrepreneurs that are successful, that you've interacted with and you've interviewed, what qualities have you seen kind of differentiate successful entrepreneurs between people who, rather than those who are not successful?
Yeah, willing to risk it all, I think, is like the number one quality. And you understand that even if this doesn't work, you're going to get stronger because of it. And so I know what I've gone through personally to get to where I am today and where I want to continue to go. And I've literally risked everything, whether it's from a relationship with someone like a significant other, or a relationship with a business partner, to things like that, to financially. Like I would do it again, like in a heartbeat. Like I'm willing to risk whatever it takes to get to where I want. And I have insane like vision board goals, but I understand that to get to there, it's a series of really, really small micro steps. And so my ultimate goal is to own an amusement park, like to be the majority owner of an amusement park.
Wow.
So I own some stock in an amusement park, or a series of parks called Cedar Fair. So technically I've hit my goal. So then I have to say, no, I need to be the majority owner. And so I know what that number is, or I think I know what that number looks like. And I'm a very long way away from that. But if you do a bunch of small little things to get there, you'll get closer. And so I think people that are successful are ones that are willing to bet it all. And if you lose, you'll bet it all again, and again, and again. And when you win, it's a great feeling. But it's interesting because I think those who are willing to take the risk do well. The ones who basically want to live that 9-to-5 lifestyle, and there's nothing the matter with that. I think it's nice and convenient. They just don't believe in themselves the same way that other people do. And there's really important people out there that can live that. And so then it's my job to then make sure that person can fulfill their life goals, which aren't the same as mine.
Can you tell these qualities kind of right off the bat whenever you meet someone? Like Zach, I'm thinking about starting up this business. Yeah. And can you kind of just notice? Or is it something that you kind of figure out about people?
I think after the honeymoon you can, right? So you meet someone, they present themselves well, what they say seems logical, it seems like they've been doing things, but then where are they in 6 months? Where are they in 90 days? I think that's when you can really understand if someone is or isn't. It's just people could fib about it. People could say they're really one place, but they're really another. And it doesn't matter where they are. And we all have to define success the way that we want to define it, right? So success for me looks very different than success for you and anyone watching. And so if someone is hitting their goal, that's success, right? Just because their goal is to make sure they make payroll every month, that's fine. Some other people might want to say, I want to have 6 months of payroll in the bank, and that's being successful for a long period of time. So I think we judge success the wrong way. We judge success as in how many commas they have in their business number. One thing that I learned 18 months ago was that if you make $1 million or more as a business, you're in the top 4% of businesses. So
that's significant.
That's significant. So 96% of the businesses are making $1 million or less. One thing I learned also recently is that at least in this area, 95% of businesses have 50 employees or less. So if you can start kind of putting those numbers in there, you're realizing that that's where the majority of businesses are. That's where most businesses have growth. And so to be one of those top 4%, yes, bet on yourself, but realize that goal, money doesn't make happiness to a lot of people, right? And so I could have $1, but if I'm happy, that's all that matters. And so really understanding kind of what is your why, or what is it that you ultimately want? Is it really to make that kind of money, or is it something else that's deeper that can make you a more satisfied life?
Do you think that people, let's talk about motivation a little bit here.
Yeah.
So from how I kind of understand it, you can put you could put entrepreneurs into kind of two different categories. You can put them into like, I'm starting a business because it is my passion, because it is something that I feel like I need to do and just give to the world, or I'm motivated because I need to make money. I need to make money now. It's like either vision and future progression of a person or necessity.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with those two types of people being motivated? And is there a difference?
So I believe that every business that has been truly validated should never die. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is, if you can figure out who your target customer is and they want what you're providing to them and they're willing to pay for that, and there's hopefully a large number of those things, of those target customers, that business should never die. Where I think a lot of people mess up is that they don't ever figure that kind of who their target customer is. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is you think your customer is one thing instead of another. And so what were the two that you said?
Well, it's vision, like
right.
I'm creating a business because
so
I
you
want
have
to
a vision, I want to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You might be your target customer and never figure out who that is. Mm-hmm. That could be a struggle, right? You're in business to distribute capital in return for some product or service in exchange. And so I think people forget that. Like, business is about an exchange of money for product. And if your vision, if people don't buy into that vision, you're not going to get paid. You might just have a hobby. And so I think, and there's nothing the matter with hobbies, but when it doesn't grow the way that you wanted it to, or you can't find that customer, you have to understand and respect yourself to say, something isn't going right. Like, why, like, this coffee is great, I want more of it, right? So that's someone saying, I want something. Oh, you don't like that coffee? Okay, so let's learn from that to figure out what's next. And so it's kind of a crazy way to think of it, but like, what do people want? Can I provide it? Give it to them in exchange for cash. Like that's like business 101. But most people hear something, they think it one way, and then they can't make that transaction, and then, it doesn't work. When it could be they just wanted this cup to be pink.
So it's okay, all right. So how do you stay motivated? I know that you're involved in a lot of different stuff. You got a lot of irons in the fire, and it's got to be, a real effort to go ahead and be focused throughout the day, weeks, months, years. How do you stay motivated?
Yeah, so focus is an interesting word. I've never been more focused in my life, right? I know that end goal, and I know what my micro goals are. So I stay motivated because I know that every little thing that I do is getting me closer to that, even if I can't see it today. So when you ask me, hey, are you interested in doing this? Immediate yes, right? Why? Because this is one micro piece that's going to get me closer to that ultimate thing. And in a lot of different ways. Me practicing what I'm saying, me creating a better relationship with you, me having this being distributed to thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people. Thank you, millions of people, right? But I've told you this before, it's about raising your hand every single time. And so when opportunities come up, say yes every single time. If it doesn't look like it's working out later on, then say no. But if you don't say yes, someone else is going to. And so I'm motivated. My why is to be happy. So I have lived in corporate world where I hated my life, and I would be out till 2 or 3 in the morning at a bar binge drinking for no reason, and then waking up and then going to work and hating it. Now I feel like I am going to work super early, more hours, more focused, because I'm happy that I've created something and I'm helping other people too. And so I never want to go back to that kind of life. And so people say, well, what business would you work for? None. Like there's not one business that I want, because I'm not even thinking about how I could get back to that kind of life. And I created this from scratch, and I know that I could create again if something bad happened. And so I'm motivated because I don't want to go back, and I know that I'm happy now, and it's a life that has had struggles to get to here since I started, but it's worth it, because every day you're getting closer and closer. And I think that for someone watching that was wondering, how do I do this? Just start small. And then it'll progress into something a little bit bigger and bigger. And every once in a while I look back, 6 months, a year afterwards and say, where have I come? And I look back at like 2010, 2011, 2012, I'm like, geez, like a long way. Even from like last week, it's like, wow, look at where we've come. And so we don't take an inventory of our lives enough and say, I've really made a big impact, not only on my life, but on other people's, my businesses, et cetera.
Okay, so what has been going on with Hatch? Is there any updates, anything we should know about?
So our focus is creating business resources on demand. So I tell people I'm either creating content or selling content. And so we create content because our users ask for it, or we see that there's something they might need. So Pokemon was big recently, so we did a big Pokemon push. I know you guys did that here. It's even if you don't believe in it, it's just saying this is how you could use it. This is what might be good for you. And so then figuring out though what people are willing to pay to get some of that information. So our goal is to help as many businesses as possible. The platform's called 1004. It's 1,000 businesses with an average of 4 employees each. We believe that's an army, and that's data in America says this is where all the business is. If 95% of the business is basically right there, let's focus on giving them what they need instead of these kind of unicorns or whales that most people can't produce.
So if someone is interested in Hatch, where can they go to check you out?
So start with hatch.com or 1004.com. So 1000 FOUR.com is where you can find out stuff. But I mean, the key is really just understanding what you want to do in life, and don't do something because the TV told you or someone told you. Figure out really what you want, and then use those platforms to help you get a little bit closer to it.
Very cool, very cool. Well, Zach, thank you so much for coming on.
It was fun.
I've appreciated it, and I hope you come back and see us again
Absolutely.
one day.
Sofa is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. We actually agonized over like the color of this sofa, like a lot. So hear your compliment about it.
Yeah,
It's
and
nice.
pillows that no one can see.
Yeah, yeah. So it's this orange texture here.
We wanted
thing.
the pillow, didn't we?
Yeah. We thought about putting a pillow here. I thought it was a little much, but yeah. So
That's
anyway.
awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming on over.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, guys, that's it for this edition of Thanks Brain Interviews. You can go ahead if you want to watch the video of this. You go onto YouTube. If you want to listen to the podcast, check out our podcast. You can find everything on pararigroup.com. And until then, I'll see you next time.